Welcome to the Core Values of Digital Journalism lesson. This lesson is going to be broken down into two shorter parts. In this first part, I'm going to talk about mostly the challenges of writing and consuming information in digital contexts. I'll also cover this question, which you might be asking if you aren't someone who's aiming to be a journalist, why should you care about the core values of digital journalism? And then finally, I'm going to answer the question, how can I use journalistic values to make my writing trustworthy and credible? Well, part of the reason why you should care if you're not a journalist is because journalistic values in the digital realm can help us navigate some of the challenges of digital contexts, especially challenges of writing in digital contexts, and more generally, being a content creator in digital contexts. And also the challenges of being a consumer in digital context and consuming news or entertainment, whatever you do. Anytime you enter into the digital realm, these contexts can provide challenges for us in how we get our information. Today, there's an unprecedented amount of information overload. We carry around our smartphones, there's laptops, we're bombarded by it everywhere, even if we put down our smartphones. It's hard to escape it. And it's also hard to know what information is credible and reliable and valuable and what information is not. And what that means for you as someone who is consuming news and consuming information online, as well as creating it and writing it, is attention spans are short. So your attention span's short as a consumer, and you should be aware of that when you're looking through things and try to fight against the tendency to just read a headline and move on, or just read the first paragraph and move on. But it's also important for you to know that when you're creating content for your potential readers or viewers or listeners, that their attention spans are short. You're going to have to be competing in a sea of information. So how can you convince them that what you're creating is worth their time and is trustworthy? Trust is hard earned. Now, as someone who is immersed in this environment, you probably already know trust is hard earned. It's hard to know what information to trust and who to trust. So, for you, as someone who's making content in digital environments, you have to think of ways to earn people's trust. And that's part of how you convince them to give you their time. It's also important to realize that most people lack critical media literacy skills. There have been several studies that show this, that people don't always dig and research and try to find the source of their information. This has led to, as I'm sure you're aware, the proliferation of conspiracy theories. One famous example is from a few years ago, Pizzagate. Now, this had to do with a conspiracy that some politicians, including Hillary Clinton, were sex trafficking children in the basement of this pizza restaurant. It may sound far-fetched to you. It sounded far-fetched to me when I first heard about it, but it led to someone actually believing it and going into the restaurant with a gun. Now, the restaurant didn't even have a basement. This was all, disproven. If that person had the critical media literacy skills to be able to move past the discourse of people who were conspiracy theorists and try to fact check it. So it makes it difficult. Us lacking critical media literacy skills makes it difficult for us as average content consumers, but also as content creators, because you have to produce trustworthy materials, and you have to encourage these critical media literacy skills by doing your own research and making sure you're being upfront with where your information is coming from. And it's also challenging in a way that's related to this, that misinformation and disinformation are rampant. So misinformation is information where you hear something and you think it's true, but it's not. Disinformation is more like people are purposefully saying things to mislead you, like propaganda. Or you can think of like the bots, like Russian bots on social media. Um, Both of these are really rampant in our contemporary digital context. It makes it hard for you, as someone who's creating content, to know what to trust, know what to source, know what to believe. It's really important that you check your sources, that you read beyond headlines, that you also yourself try not to just get headlines by creating sensationalistic um, uh, grabby headlines. It's important that you always check the author. Where's this coming from? And their supporting sources. Click on the links. It's not just that there's a hyperlink, that you need to click on the hyperlink to make sure that the supporting source is something valuable, because it could just be hyperlinking it to some other opinion piece that they wrote. Checking the date, making sure it's not a joke. This is something that has actually happened. Some of you may have heard of the Onion newspaper, which is a joke newspaper. Well, some of their headlines actually have been picked up by international newspapers who didn't know that the Onion was a joke. Check your own biases and ask experts, right? That wraps up the first short lesson about challenges we'll face in digital contexts. In the next lesson, I'll talk about how we can combat them using journalistic values.